Hey everybody, it's Mike Meyers, yay! And it's time for our Monday, Wednesday, and Friday Ask Mike Anything. And of course, I have to always ask that most important question of all. That is, can you hear me? Preferably on both sides. As last Monday, I was only coming off on one side, so hopefully I sound a lot better today. I've been playing with my system a lot, and I have now like a 10-second delay. So whatever you're hearing, I said 10 seconds ago. So it's going to be a little strange. Nobody's typing in anything. There we go. Okay, so I do have sound. Yay for sound. Hooray. Checking 1, 2. 1, check 1, 2. Okay, there we go. All right, so anyway, hi, welcome to Mike Meyers Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Ask Me Anything. We do this every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 2 p.m. Central Daylight Time here in the States. The goal of this AMA is to give those of us who are isolated because of the coronavirus an opportunity to continue to work on our studies, to ask questions in particular on the base CompTIA certifications, IT fundamentals, A+, Net+, and Security+. We certainly can cover more than that, but that's where our expertise is and tends to be where we can give you the best answers. I'll give you an answer on anything if you want. But if you want the right answer, that's going to cost you extra. Kidding. It's a really quiet day today. Wayne's World. Hey, Wayne's World. So we'll just go on. A maximum of 2 hours or until the questions stop, whichever comes first. Now keep in mind, I'm here to answer your questions. From time to time, I will have people ask me questions, and particularly ones that might need some more development, and then we'll defer those to another day. So the short answers I can answer right away, and anything else we might have to wait till Friday or even next Monday, depending on what the questions are. But again, the burden is on you to ask me questions. So sometimes questions are a little bit more complicated than what you might think, and you might find yourself in a situation and be like, you know, I wish I could give Mike this question ahead of time so he can gel on it or make pretty PowerPoints and stuff like that. And to do that, this is my contact information. And so all you want to do is send me an email to either one of those email addresses. I don't even know I have two up there. They both get to me equally well. Top one is my corporate email, and the lower one is my personal email. If you're a Steam gamer at all, check me out on Senor Pepe, although I will admit I've been a little reticent on game playing as much as I would like to be. But anyway, the bottom line is it's a great way to catch me if you're a gamer. That is our office number. The office number isn't working very well during the coronavirus, but it does work if you really need to get a hold of me. But the best way to get a hold of me, just send me an email. Odds are good I'll just send you my contact address. When in doubt, if you want to know anything about me, just look up the word DesWeds. DesWeds is a kinetic acronym. If you ever actually type it with one finger, you can type DesWeds and not even lift your hand up off the mouse. If you're right-handed, of course. So anyway, the onus is on you guys to ask me questions, and I am here to answer those questions for you. And if I can't answer it immediately, we'll probably pick it up in the next day or two. Also, just because you guys were kind enough to even show up, have we got a deal for you? So if you use the code MMLive7, you get 50% off our super bundles and our practice questions. So just head over to www.totalsim.com, use that magic code, and you get 50% off just about anything. These prices are insane. Anyway, so like I said, it's a lighter day today. I did get like a partial question, but I'm going to beat the person up a little bit more. Had some questions about DHCP. Easy enough to do, but that definitely would like to have some props. Problem is most people think of DHCP as that really garbage DHCP server that comes on most home routers. Yeah, it's a very incomplete DHCP tool. And there's a lot of stuff. The other one is anytime you type ipconfig /?, you know, there's a lot of switches on ipconfig, and I know we don't think about it very much, but there's one that's called, ipconfig /show class ID or /set class ID. And people always ask me what those for. And the reason they're there, it's for DHCP, and it does some very, very cool stuff. You just have to know how to use them. So I'm thinking about maybe on Friday we'll do a more aggressive DHCP discussion. Let me write that down as a little reminder of what the trickiest part is. Have to bring in a good DHCP server. I know, we use the one in Windows server. So we could have a little bit of fun with DHCP. So let's keep that one in mind as a question that we can bring up later. So anyway, those are the deals we got right now. So let me, first of all, I do have one, I got one little email question yesterday. And it was a viewer who's doing PenTest Plus. And they're like, Mike, what's the difference between tailgating versus piggybacking? And you know, I do not have the PenTest Plus certification. I haven't really geared for it. But I do know the answer to that one by coincidence. And that is, it has to do with social engineering, where you have like some type of security gate or something like that. So tailgating means the person who's you're getting in with is unaware that you're doing it, and piggybacking is when somebody goes, come on in, well, I'll use my card to get in. So tailgating and piggybacking are pretty much exactly the same thing. The only difference is with tailgating, the person who's actually using the card doesn't know you're sneaking in, and with piggybacking, they do. So pretty easy one. So yeah, it's not too many I have all those in the top of my head, but that one I did. Dominic, yeah, there we go. So Dominic, I hope I answered your question to your satisfaction. It's good to see you on Steam, man. Andrew Hutz, Mike, how much more difficult are the Udemy practice tests than the actual A+? I'd say they're a little easier, to be honest with you. Yeah. Dina Murray, hello all. Hello, Dina. Hey, PZ, good to see you again. Tony, have you ever heard of DNS issues over VPN? We're having that issue at my place of work. I can't access network soldiers via name, but I can via IP. Yeah, Tony, that is a classic problem that happens with VPNs. A lot of VPNs by default will not pass all that NetBUI, NetBIOS traffic. The old, what is that, port 455? I forgot. Oh, 445. Shoot, I forgot the port for, I'm going to look it up because this is going to torture me now. One moment, please. 445. Whew. I can't believe I forgot all that stuff. So what will take place is, because that's broadcast traffic that would be being pushed back and forth on the VPN. So some VPNs will have an option to kind of turn it on. They turn on a more refined version of it. The other thing a lot of times that you need to do is you end up having to put a dedicated DNS server just for your VPN clients. But that is always an issue. And the main reason they don't do it is because they don't want to send broadcast traffic back and forth on that connection. So that's the answer. In terms of how you would fix that and do better, that's literally on a per product basis. I think OpenVPN has a pretty easy solution for that. But yes, it's always a big problem, Tony, especially on a newly installed one. Tolowit, it would be cool if you could do a career day highlighting some of the different careers in IT that some of us may not have considered. A career day. I got to think about that one. Kind of different jobs, huh? That'd probably be easier than you think. I know a lot of people in the industry, especially here in Houston. So let me think about that, Tolwood. Appreciate it. The Jesus, how can you tell the difference between GPUs? Color? I mean, you can't, right? You tell the difference. First of all, are they new GPUs you're unaware of? So usually as new GPUs come out, I tend to go to Tom's Hardware or either that or Ars Technica. These are two good techie websites. And so I try to stay on top of what processors are coming out. Certainly a major processor family coming out is a big deal. So I tell them apart because I read about them, and it's pretty much just two companies these days. So AMD or NVIDIA, it's not that much to read. And so that's how I tell them apart. Now, if you're asking me if someone hands me a card and says, what kind of GPU is in it? I'd physically observe the card itself. There's usually model numbers and things like that. And NVIDIA, I swear that NVIDIA will put their trademark on a can of tuna if they can. So I would observe that and look at it, and then I would recognize it that way. If it was installed and I couldn't easily get to the card, I would probably use either CPU ID, but I heard there's a new utility out there, it's not that new, called GPU ID. So somebody's going to have to check that out for me and let me know if there is. It'll go in and talk to your card directly, and you can just, without even opening the case, learn everything you wanted to know about that card in detail. Dina Murray. Hi, Mike. I need Susan email again for the Oh, Dina Murray. Okay. There you go. Scott Drigan already took care of it for you there, Dina. Thank you, Scott. Terrence Tech. Vimal. All right. Henry Bruzo, A+ bank question. There's no banking questions on the A+. Which of the following is not, oh, you mean one of my test banks. I thought I had rid of all those negative questions. Which of the following is not? I always like those when I write questions, and we discovered a couple years ago that's considered bad question form. I don't care. There's a few of them I like. We took most of them out. So, all right. Anyway, which of the following is not provided by the power supply? I got the question right with power surge, Sage, but it had a choice of surge protection. How does a PSU provide surge protection? The two biggest components in almost any power supply, if you actually open it up, this would certainly be true for ATX and ITX power supplies, is there's going to be anywhere from 2 to 4 massive capacitors. The reason those capacitors exist inside your power supply is to provide at least some amount of surge protection. Keep in mind that depending on how this capacitors are made, if you blow a capacitor, that power supply won't survive another surge. There's no such thing as perfect sine wave voltage, and surges will happen even in regular stuff when you and I don't even notice it. Andrew Hutz, oof, I'm getting very inconsistent results. I got 82% on the first, 73. Well, Andrew, there's a lot of questions on the actual A+ that do say what's the best answer. And it's just something you got to be comfortable. Wait till you start taking Microsoft certs. I wouldn't be in a big panic about inconsistent results. Andrew, given the quality of questions you've asked in the past, I'm surprised you're getting what sounds to me to be a lower score than what I think your knowledge base is. Either that or you're just real good at impressing me. But I just keep practicing. I mean, that's why you do them. You start with lower scores and you practice and practice, then you get higher scores. Soy Troy, okay, but real talk. I'm the man in the box. Yeah, that's me, Soy Troy. That's me. Tony, lots of IT jobs on usajobs.gov. Soy Troy, like in the illustrations? No, he's two-dimensional. Dominic, I take my pen test in the morning. Thanks for bringing me this far from A+. Okay. What are some good tech pages to research issues or keep up with new problems? Ooh, I get asked this question about once a year, and I never do the same thing as a problem. You know what? That'll be another good one, because I'll make a more complete list because I got all these. I mean, if you guys were to look, well, here I can show you. And just. This is, believe it or not, this is my favorites. So, I mean, if you look at any of these favorites, I can do it over here. You can see I use tons of these. So to be able to give you a simple answer to what sounds like a simple question is harder than you think. So we're going to do Mike's cool sites, I guess would be the easy way to talk about it. I just named a couple of them. Ars Technica is still pretty good. A-R-S-T-E-C-H-I. Type in, you'll figure it out. Ars Technica, that's one word, A-R-S Technica. I've been using those guys for a long time. Tom's Hardware, of course, has always been a good one. Gosh, so many. I almost wouldn't know where to start on that. We'll build up a list. How's that sound? And I'll make sure to do that on Friday. I'll note that down too. Okay. Whoops, I lost you guys. There we go. Andrew, you probably do overthink the questions too much. The number one reason people fail CompTIA exams is test anxiety. The number two reason people fail CompTIA exams is that they know too much. And Andrew, I think you're kind of like a whiz kid who'd sit there and say 2 + 2 can equal 5 for very large values of 2. Yeah, so you gotta just be easy, man. You'll do great. P. Birdie, what do you think about a guy who wants to change careers at age 55? P. Birdie, we get zillions of people who are corporate retrainers who come into IT. The only thing I would say to somebody who's older and coming in, welcome aboard. You better love this stuff because that's the only reason to do this, man. You want to make more money, go be a pipe fitter. Good welder here in Texas probably has a starting wage double what most starting techs do. But if you love this stuff as much as I do, then welcome aboard. The other thing to keep in mind is that if you're 55, you have lifetime experience in some form of business or trade, right? So, I don't know, let's say you were a roofer, okay? One of the big advantages that older learners who can come into IT is that you take advantage of your roofing skills and end up working for a roofer, developing software, or working for a roofer supply company or something like that in the IT department. It's always a big mistake that people make when they go into IT. They think they have to start over. And assuming you have some kind of skill that you've learned in whatever business it is, you always go back to that. But you do it from an IT standpoint. Why not take advantage of experience? Pretty straightforward. Andrew Hutz, would you be able to do a quick review of what CheckDisk does and when it's best to use it? You missed 3 separate CheckDisk questions. I'm so gun shy to do CheckDisk right now, and the only reason is I don't want to end up rebooting my system. We've had some pretty funny technical problems here at the old AMAs, given that I do them 3 times a week. We started out 5 times a week, which was, no offense kids, a little grueling. But we can definitely, I'll throw in a CheckDisk tomorrow too. I'll bring up a VM so we can actually run it and do it the right way. So yes, Andrew, I can hit that for you. Moses Park, how's it going, brother? Hey, for the OSI model, is the source IP a private IP or public IP? Okay, Moses, your question makes me a little scared. You're not asking the question well, but we'll fix you. All right, so in the OSI model, all IP address functions are at the network layer or layer 3. Boom. So let's stop talking about the OSI model for a minute and let's just talk about IP packets. So you always have a source and a destination, that's absolutely true. But whether they're public or private really depends where they come from. Like for example, if I have a private network that's 192.168.5. something, on my initial packet to go out to the internet, it will have as the source address, because it came from me and I am in a private network, but it gets to the router. In order for that packet to move outside of the router, it has to be running NAT. And once NAT sees that, it will yank out the private IP address and put the router's IP address in there temporarily. When the packet comes back, he'll pull his out, put the right guys back in, and send it down the line. So remember, a private IP address at no time can ever exist on the actual internet. So for your question, it wouldn't matter to me whether it was a public or private, whether the source was a public or private. Moses, I'm worried that you might want to review NAT a little bit more and get a little bit more comfortable with that. Alexander, there you go, alter ego, 38, love it. God, I wish I was 38 again. I remember when I was like a little kid, like in the 70s, okay? I know this is not an old man story. Okay, maybe it is a little bit of an old man story. Anyway, I was one of these little smart alecks, and I remember looking at that the year 2000 was going to be coming, like in 20 some odd years. Geez, I am old. Anyway, so I sat there and I was, how old will I be in the year 2000? And I wrote it down, and it was like 38. I'm like, my God, I can't even imagine being that old. To be 38 again. And a couple of wiser choices. But other than that, yeah, I like my job too. Hi, Mike, can we create a local user account with a roaming profile? No. I mean, by definition, a local user account boots locally. So you would want a domain user account. Now, one thing I will tell you is that the security policies in Microsoft Windows are kind of terrifyingly amazing. And I wouldn't put it past Microsoft to have some way to do it. But no, I mean, the idea of roaming profiles is that you're on a controller and that you'd have a domain account. And it would use that domain account to move the user profile wherever you wanted to do that. Hey, and please make sure that you are on rock bottom 100 megabit, better probably to be a gigabit Ethernet connection. Roaming profiles are just roaming profiles, it's kind of like shaving. It's really fun the first couple of times, and then it becomes a PITA. PvP boy. God, what a name, dude. Hi, Mike. Hi, PvP boy. Caught tray cap. Hey, Mike, Nick here. Hey, Nick, wanted to ask about time limitations between taking A+ Core 1 and Core 2. I don't think there are any time limitations. You could take the core, the two separate exams to get one cert. Yeah. I'm sure there's a limit, but it's got to be, if it isn't a full year, it could be even 3 years. I don't know. I don't know is the right answer off the top of my head. Check it out at www.comptia.org, and they will have all those answers for you. Mr. Ruby, for A+ Core 2, how much emphasis is there on command line interfaces? Windows versus Linux versus Mac? Okay, first, Mr. Ruby, Linux and Mac have pretty much the same interface at the command line, so you don't have to make yourself more confused. The questions that they ask are, in my opinion, pretty rudimentary, but you want to cover everything that's in the book because the books are based on objectives. I would say that I was not overly impressed with the questions that I saw in the 1002 exam. You want me to tell you how many questions there are and stuff? I'm not going to do that. Trying to gauge how much time to devote to total SIMS modules. What are the best areas to study and focus on? If I mention it in a book or a video, you want to study it when it comes to command lines. The only other clue I'll give you is that none of the command line questions are very deep. I'll let you go with that. So it's more important to me that you would know what the commands are and what their output looks like than to have like this exhaustive understanding of it. Soy Troy, with enough certs and enough job experience, is it possible to completely forego the college process and still go anywhere through knowledge and experience? You mean in life in general? Sure. Within the world of IT, it's getting trickier and trickier. And what will end up happening is that glass ceilings appear that you don't anticipate. I know a huge percentage of all the people who went straight into IT without ever going to college, I would say half of them went ahead and got degrees. So you can get pretty far. Or if you want to be an entrepreneur, you know, Bill Gates doesn't really have a college degree, right? Michael Dell doesn't really have a college degree. They got 10,000 honoraries, but they don't have college degrees. But I think those days are fading, unfortunately. Tony, I forgot what those stackable certifications are. It just shows you how quickly I stop after Security Plus, huh? I need to review that for myself. So I'm going to double check that. This is where people like Kathy Yale usually have these answers right off the top of their head. All right, Tolowitz answering questions there. I'll let that go. Andrew Hutz, how would a person go about reverting their computer to the last known good configuration? How does that differ from a system restore point? I'm not positive that it does anymore. My problem is I remember system restore points. I remember last known good before there were system restore points. I'm going to show my age here one more time. What version of Windows is this? Ruben, I see you, brother. What was the question again? So when you're in the Windows pre-installation environment and now you throw in the repair media, right? Throw in the boot auth repair media, last known good configuration. I can pretty much guarantee you that that's a restore point. Windows always, since ever, at the end of a successful boot would put certain information down, and then that would be the old. But those, I'm not sure. I think, knowing Microsoft, they probably never used the traditional restore point outside of the pre-installation environment, and they kept the old technology. Fascinating question. The other big challenge you have with Windows is it has like 17 backups, and they're all so automated now that I lean almost exclusively on throwing in a bootable Windows thing and hitting repair and praying. If that doesn't get it, I don't have any second level of tools I go to for Windows repair. I usually just end up plugging a drive in and pulling data, then rebooting, restoring Windows. Interesting question, though. Nix, right? Good evening. Whenever I try to put the practice exams in my shopping cart, Marnix, I don't know nothing about that. Here, I'll type in. There we go. So that you're going to get this in 10 seconds. That is Kathy Yale's email address. Just send her an email and she will be there to help you. Afka Patel, can you explain what is DNS? Sure. DNS stands for Domain Naming System Services. Yeah, sorry, Marnix, I can't take your money. I don't know. So when you look at your phone, all right, and if I want to call somebody, I could type in a number, right? But most of the time what I do is I go in my contacts, and let's say I want to talk to Scott Jernigan. I go to Scott Jernigan and just press his name or his picture or whatever it is on whatever particular app I'm using, and I contact Scott Jernigan. If you ask, well, actually I do have Scott Jernigan's phone number memorized. If you asked me what Dave Rush's, here at Total Seminars, phone number is, I wouldn't be able to tell you. But I have his phone number. It's just on speed dial, okay? So if we remember that everything on the internet is a computer with an IP address. There is an analogy that every telephone in the world has a telephone number associated with it. But we so rarely use telephone numbers directly, just as we so rarely use IP addresses directly. And the problem is humans are really terrible at remembering things like 17.44.63.19. But we're a lot better at memorizing things like www.google.com. And for the first 15 years of the internet, there used to be a file stored on every computer that is the internet. And the name of this file was called hosts, H-O-S-T-S. And you could pretty much give yourself any friendly name you wanted because it was a little 2-column text. It would have an IP address and then it would have some name. Or I think it had the name, then the IP address. So you could call yourself Wonder Twins Powers Activate. There was no .com back then or any of that. And as long as your IP address was associated with it, people could find you. Because what they do is they wrote applications that looked at this little piece of paper called host before it did anything else. Remember that? So that worked for a long time, but the problem was the only time somebody had a name on the internet was when that piece of paper got updated every 3 o'clock every morning. So after about 50,000 people were on the internet, they're like, this is a terrible, terrible way to do things. We need to do something better. So the whole DNS is a bunch of rules that says what do domain names look like now. In fact, they invented the concept of domain pretty much. And how do we go about organizing to control all this huge database of names and then associated IP addresses? That's all that is. The only thing DNS does is it resolves fully qualified domain names like www.totalsem.com. That's a perfect example of a fully qualified domain name. It resolves these names to IP addresses. The only people who need wwws and .edus are us human beings. You type something like that into a computer, first thing it's going to do is resolve that information, and then it's going to send packets in and out. And so that's what DNS is all about. So DNS started out with, what was the original 6 and 7 primary domains, .com, .edu, .gov, and the rest. And then a second level domain, like TotalSem or something like that. And then usually the third value doesn't have to be. You can have more dots. You can break things down a lot more if you want to, just people rarely do, is started putting in www for web servers. So that's just how that all came about. So I'm going to stop with that. So what DNS does is it resolves fully qualified domain names to IP addresses. So when you're in a web browser and you type in www.google.com, it will go out, resolve the name, give your web browser a proper IP address, which will then send it out. Got the idea? Okay. So what I want you to do now is ask me more questions about DNS. If that doesn't get you started, you should be started enough now to be able to ask me some questions back. PvP Boy, why does Mac have such horrible names for their stuff? I don't know, because they're all from California, man. Phil M from New York. We're in New York. Love your material. Thank you, sir. Do you do in-person lectures as well, or just online? Phil, I'll do in person for $1 million. I don't want to go anyplace. I mean, if somebody threw a wheelbarrow of money at me, I'd probably do it. But literally, that would probably be what it would take. But I'm always glad to do online for anybody all the time. I speak to schools all over the world. Not so many right now, obviously, but normally probably one a week. And that's free, of course. I'm glad to help out as much as I can. Andrew Hutz, I meant to tell you, I figured out the problem with the computer that was consistently updated HRCI drivers. So my question there is, Andrew, I'm unaware that updating HRCI drivers reduces disk space usage. I haven't run into that, but honestly, 90% of the computer problems I ever see, I've just run into them for the first time. I'm just good at poking around. But I am curious, did you actually just go in and you're like, I'm just going to update everything, you know, one of those? Because I've been there. Or did you actually research it and find it? I'm curious, Andrew. Sorry, I'm just trying to get myself caught up here, kids. All right, I'm back. Terrence Tech, Mike, Security Plus question. Is it necessary to lab all the material in the whole book before prepared? You know, so Terrence, the question is do you need to do all the material to be ready? Yeah. My belief when it comes to any certification is D for diploma. I am unaware of any certification where anybody cares anything other than whether you have the cert or not. I've never heard of a technical interview where the interviewer is like, oh, I see you got a blah, 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 a 625 on the Security Plus. Well, reprehensible. No, I've never seen that. So now what you're asking me is, Mike, what corners can I cut? So none. You know, for me, the big thing is you pick a time in the future when you want to take the certification. You can use all my tables. I've got them in all my books and videos. And if you can't get one, I'll find one for you. Email it to you. And then you calculate how many hours you need to study. And then you go back, and that's when you schedule, 3 months in advance, 2 months in advance, a month in advance. Just it depends on you and how much time you have to dedicate to it. And then you cover all the bases in there. Don't cut corners. Can you cut corners on any training material and still pass? Sure, but you keep rolling the dice every time you do that. So I'm not sure that's a good idea. Andre, don't get nervous. Look, this is not a permanent examination, It's, if you fail, it costs time and money, which is an inconvenience, but that's all it is. And you just retake them. I've retaken tons of certifications. So again, other than the inconvenience of time and money, who cares? Nobody cares. No one's ever going to ask you, how many times did it take you to pass the CCNA? Nobody cares. They just want to know whether you have the cert or not. That's it. In fact, that's the other thing you do. When you get certs, you don't advertise them. You don't walk up to hello, I'm A+ certified. People will laugh at you. These are just assumed certifications. And you just put them at the bottom of your resume. And if you're asked about them, you just casually, I thought I'd pick up, I want to stay up with things. I want to stay up with things. I want to stay up with things, so picked up at Net Plus. And you stay cool about it. It would be like somebody boasting that, oh, look, I can pick up a phone and answer it. See, look at me, I'm answer phone certified. These are just assumed things. So, be cool. Ruben, passed the 1001. Congrats. Yay! Now do 1002. Zach Murphy, your dad paid for your classes? Good for you, kid. Xana Jane and Gleek the Wonder Monkey. Yeah, I know I'm a little behind the... You're going to go in the Air Force? Good for you, man. As Zach Murphy, I would recommend... Well, you're only 15, right? So yeah, you can pick up a few certs. But the Air Force is famous for all their certifications that they provide. It's a good way to go. Caught ECAP. Caught ECAP. That's a hard one to say. I have another question. Came across a sample question for Core 2, which seemed a bit weird. Question posted below. To prevent electrical damage to a PC while working on it, which of the following should be disconnected? The answer was power cable. Yeah, it's the power cable. So what the problem is that if you can guarantee a perfect ground, then sure, leave it plugged into the wall. But people can so rarely guarantee a perfect ground. So remember, as a tech, all you're trying to do is change the differential. So as long as you're in contact with the metal case, if that doesn't create a good differential, that means something isn't screwed in, and there's very little you can do about that. But so the right answer is that way you guarantee that you're at the same potential as the system itself. If you can guarantee that the ground that you're plugging into is true earth ground, and that if you yourself are actually hit on true earth ground as well, then yeah, it would be better to plug them in. But there's no way to guarantee that, and I would say 50% of most office electrical installations don't provide that. So yeah, unplug it. PvP boy, can you explain what is Microsoft Com Plus? Yeah, Com Plus is old and weird. Let's see if I can get to this fairly easily. Hang on a minute. Boy, they really don't want you using control panel anymore, do they? Category small icons. Boy, I have not looked for this in a while. I hope it's still there. Looking for the data settings. Is that under administrative tools? Component services, I believe it is. Yeah. Look at me. Hang on. All right, see if I can bring this up so y'all can see it. One moment, please. Can you guys see that? Here, let me bring it over a little bit more. There we go. All right, so a billion years ago, when the Earth was young, Windows really was, I know Mac predated them as a GUI, but Windows was really the first graphical operating system used in the PC world. I know there's some arguments there, but Windows got a lot of power very early deciding how certain things happened. And so Com Plus is a database interface that works between any database and Windows, certain applications. So you got to be careful with this. And it's kind of old-fashioned. I'm not saying we don't use it anymore, but it's less common than it used to be. And a lot of times you'll find yourself coming into settings here. So this was under component services. And under here, we can set up different types of applications. Now listen, no one's going to ask you ever how to configure this. What it wants to make sure you understand is that from time to time, you might be driven in here because some in-house programmer is trying to test some stuff out, and that it's up to you to come in and actually set up something that they've already handed you. So you could do imports and stuff like that of these different things. What's important is that you need to be able to get to CompTIA on component services. I've actually had to go in there to do work maybe twice in my whole life. And it's been 10 years since I've had to last. But the only place this will still come in, like a pre-made program that you download and you run and install, it's never going, it will, if this has to happen, it will do it by itself, part of the install process. The only time you would ever come in here is because somebody's trying to hook a new concept of database to an application, and it's going to be an in-house app kind of a thing. Tolowit, I had the same, SSD. You guys are talking about that hard drive still. Ooh, lots more questions. My scroller is so slow. Sorry, guys. I am very patient. I feel like you're the ones that guys have to be patient as I'm trying to scroll through here. You guys are having a little conversation, but talk among yourselves. Mike, any tips for Security Plus interview? And thanks for the Udemy course in the book. Schwarz-Edda. Schwarz-Edda. It's a good German name there. Let me make sure I understand what your question is. For the Security Plus interview, do you mean the test? If you mean the test, then the most important thing I can tell you is know your ports and know your IP addresses inside and out. Understand what log files are for. There's 10 trillion different kinds and types and shapes of log files all over your computer and all over your network. But always remember, a log file is only going to be able to log what you're asking it to log. Does that make sense? So just because you're running a log on your Windows machine that's keeping track of people not logging in properly, that doesn't mean it's going to know anything about a switch or something like that. That would be the biggest thing. And also, don't forget that risk management is really, really important. Hey, Mike, for the Network Plus exam, do we need to know all the 802.xx standards? Nah, not really. Make sure you know your wireless standards. There's a few you should know, which are listed as objectives. What is 802.1x? Might be a good one. What is 802.1q? VLANs. But no, there's most of the 802 standards are pretty much dead. 802.5 was Token Ring, for crying out loud. So it's literally a 40-year-old dead. So I did tell you guys I made a statement that Token Ring was dead, and I got a phone call. I got a phone call from a worker in a certain government agency. And it's like, Mike, not only do we still have Token Ring, we still have old school 10-base-2 thicknet. And I was like, really? Can you take a picture? Because I'd love to have that. It's like, can't do that. I'm from, So somebody's still using Token Ring out there, and a lot of it. So no, Gustavo, you don't. So Tony's saying that if you get the certs before enlisting, you go up a pay grade? Wow, okay. That is a good thing to know. Brendan S. Hey, Brendan. I was wondering why it's suggested that we use antivirus malware once a PC is infected, yet also delete and rebuild the PC or rollback. Why not just do the latter and save time? Well, I mean, it really depends on... Okay, you use Meyers malware because you have data on there that's critical. And if you do a rebuild or rollback, you'll lose critical data. That would be one good reason. Why not just rebuild or roll back? There's a lot of people who work exclusively in virtual machines now for that exact reason, because it's easier to just shut down the VM, bring it back up before it got infected. But no, because it's still a lot of work. I mean, to actually install Windows on bare metal, I mean, at the very best, it's a 15-minute job. At the best. And you start adding things like joining domains and adding software applications and stuff like that, it can be a 2 or 3 hour job. So, sometimes cleaning it up, we'll get it. The problem is you don't want it for a lot of people, just using antivirus malware is scary because there is no perfect anti-malware out there. And so it's a matter of personal choices there. Azads. Hi, Mike. I changed CPU over my dual boot Win 10 Ubuntu all in one PC, and Win 10 doesn't boot. Oh, my goodness. Yeah. Besides, you've run into a weird licensing thing that's always been there with Microsoft. And one of the things they use is the code on the CPU as part of a unique ID for your system. And I'm pretty sure that the answer to your question is that you're going to have to call Microsoft, literally, and they'll put a code in to help you get that fixed. Pretty sure that's what the problem is my guess. Yeah, Space Force. I watched one episode so far. It was okay. Tony got two 802.1x. Yeah, you definitely, 802.1x is on there. And again, because it's more of an enterprise thing, because we're all, I mean, let's face it, 802.1x was designed for a lot more than what it got used for. It's a wireless protocol. I mean, it's not just for wireless, but I've never seen it used in any other way. Oh, there is a couple other places that I think about it. But, knowing all your EAP, EAP TLS, EAP TTLS, and then some of the old ones like EAP PEEP. I have these well documented in my books and videos, but you should know them. Which one uses certificates, which one uses passwords, that kind of a thing. Oh, to the job interview. Any tips? Schwarzetta, yeah, lot of tips. I think most people pooch interviews like you wouldn't believe. Number one, I don't know you from Adam, okay, so don't get mad at anything I'm about to say. Try to look like a normal person. Let's face it, we're nerds. Our hygiene is questionable. Our taste in clothing is questionable. Our hairstyles are often questionable. Find somebody who's not a nerd and ask their opinion and just be ready to be insulted a little bit. Like my big quirk as a nerd is I never clean my glasses. And it seems like every time I sit down, people are grabbing my glasses and cleaning them for me. And they're like, Mike, it looks like you're looking through mayonnaise or whatever. So work on your personal presentation. Number two, remember about eye contact. I don't care how many times I tell people this. I've taught these classes in high schools where it's like how to do a good interview. And eye contact, eye contact, eye contact, eye contact, eye contact, and they can't remember it. So, such a big deal there. The other thing that I'm going to tell you that people often don't do is research the company you're interviewing for. Are they publicly or privately held? What exactly do they do? What locations are they in? Get some research. You can often figure out what a job is just by understanding where the job's located, what the company is, that kind of a thing. And you come in and you're asking questions. Asking questions is critical because if you don't ask questions, you're going to get the where do you see yourself in 5 years kind of BS questions. And that means that the human resource interview is already bored. So to be able to ask impactful questions, to get especially the initial interviewer, to get him to say, "Oh, I don't know. That's a good question. This guy's really interested in our company." And then the other big thing is don't be afraid to say, "I don't know." when I do technical interviews, if you ever want to work for me, you'll get technically interviewed. And I'll just keep asking you questions till I catch you. Not because I'm trying to see how smart you are. You got the interview. I probably had a pretty good idea. I'm curious how you're presenting yourself. And I'm also curious what will happen if I catch you in a place where you don't know something. I mean, the sexiest 3 words you can say to me are, I don't know. You know what I mean? Nobody knows everything. And I just want to see how people handle that type of stuff. And you don't want to just sit there and say, I don't know. You know, you say, I don't know, but I could speculate that it's, or I don't know, but I could sure get that information. Here's this website I would probably go to. See where I'm coming from? You know, taking your negatives and turning into positives. If you're taking, most of the entry-level security jobs that I've seen are pretty rudimentary jobs. Staring at monitors for 8 hours, you know, dragging cables around for somebody who knows what they're doing. So they're not expecting magical expertise. But they're expecting good enthusiasm, motivation for the job, good presentation. I mean, that's the stuff that's going to work. Joseph Fisher, is VMware good? Yes, VMware good. Zug zug. VMware is expensive, Joseph. They do not have a free version anymore. They got a viewer that's free, but yet have to use pre-made virtual machines. I don't know, maybe in the last year they've started something free again. They used to have this thing called VMware Workstation that was free. I don't think that that's true anymore. So my only problem with VMware, in fact, VMware has some features that makes it pretty cool, so I got to spend money on it. If that's going to be the case, then you might as well just use VirtualBox. Or I slam Hyper-V a lot, but I really shouldn't. Hyper-V is an excellent, excellent, excellent hypervisor, but it's a type 1. So if you install Hyper-V on your Windows system, what you've done is you turned your computer into a virtual machine, and Hyper-V is running underneath it, which everything runs great. It runs great, but weird things start to happen, like why did my IP address change and things like that. So I'm going to use VirtualBox and VirtualBox and then Hyper-V in that order. You should always run Hyper-V once. Just make sure it's on a machine that you're not afraid to erase later, in my opinion. And just to be comfortable with the interface, Hyper-V does some cool things that VirtualBox doesn't do. Like, let's say I got 4 machines and I want to make them into their own little network. So I have to have a virtual switch then, right, if you think about that. And VirtualBox certainly does that, but it doesn't do it very pretty. Hyper-V does. So like if I set up, I want my own little personal network, it'll be, okay, here's your switch. It's like a little switch, kind of graphical, and it does have some there's some nice benefits. I just don't like installing what I think is a type 2 hypervisor on my system only to discover it's a type 1 hypervisor. Again, if you've installed it, A, a lot of people don't even notice that it's happened, and B, it runs great. You know, I mean, Hyper-V is a good hypervisor, and it is free, comes with Windows. Billy Duar, Virtual Nick. I don't remember what I was talking that in reference to. Virtual Nick. Billy, ask me a whole question. I'll answer it for you, man. Dovia Napa, is anything for free? This is free. I'm here with you for free. Sorry, man, but you know I got to pay. But also do keep in mind that just because you were nice enough to show up here today, you get a heck of a deal. Just go over to www.totalsim.com and pick any of our super bundles or practice questions and type in the code MMLive7 to get 50% off of all of the super bundles and CompTIA practice questions. How's that for a deal, huh? Tanner Sova. Hi, Mike. How are you today? I am fine, Tanner. How are you, sir? Ooh, we got thunder here in Houston. It's early summer. We even got a hurricane coming up. Is it a hurricane yet? Now I'm paranoid. Sorry. On your time, I'm going to check. No, it's just a tropical storm. Cristobal. Looks like it's down on the Yucatan. So we're okay up here for a while. Eye contact is scary. Haircut, I still use my Army haircut. Okay. Thank you. You have a haircut like mine, Andre, huh? I'm actually a little shaggy right now. Russ Morgan. Yeah, you created a hypervisor on an HP DL380. You know, I'm not sure what model of HP that is off the top of my head. I could look it up faster than you could tell me. And put all of the VMs on a HP SAN. Russ, you have access to an HP SAN? Good for you, brother. Javon Andian. Regards, Mike. Peace in our time. Vladimir Laurie, your top 3 IT certifications to success in these times. You guys, you're all expecting me to say A+, Net+, Security+. As top certifications? I mean, to me, you know, Certified Wireless Security Professional is a great one, but that takes a lot of knowledge. Are you asking me what are the best first 3 to take? Or for someone getting started? Your top 3 to success at these times. CISSP is still a big one. Am I still on? Just had a huge bolt of lightning go here. I'm hoping somebody types something. Can anybody hear me? Okay, I'm still on, thank goodness. Whew, I was kind of panic. You guys didn't hear it through the mic? It was a boom. So if I go out, a lot of expensive equipment. Yeah. No, I don't have UPSs on everything. Sorry. The Zods and Tolowit, you guys are deep in something there. I'm going to let y'all go on it. Mike Meyers and Linus Torvalds, boy, you're putting me with high company up there. Goodness sakes. Interesting game of bowling. Very good. I'm getting lots of... YouTube's complaining at me right now. All right, guys. So it looks like we're kind of winding down here a little bit, which is fine. Remember, I'm on from 2 to 4 Central Daylight Time, Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. I'm on from 2 to 4 or until the questions run out. So it looks like we're pretty much out of questions for today, which is great. Always glad to be here. Remember, I'm here for you guys. Always remember, the most important thing is if you have questions, send them to me via email. And then that way, I will always be able to develop more answers for you, whatever you guys happen to need. Remember that, so just send me an email. You can always just type them in here too. It doesn't matter. This isn't Ask Me Anything. So for Friday, we're going to do a little thing on check disks. We're going to do, for sure, check disk. And then Mike's favorite websites. So let's do check disk and Mike's favorite websites here this Friday. If possible, we'll be taking a look at, and we'll do stackable certificates as well. Isn't that funny? I should know what those are. And I've seen the words. I think I know what they're for, but I don't want to lie to you. All right, so that is just for Friday. Check disk. What else did I say? Mike's Cool Sites. Check disk, Mike's Cool Sites, and stackable certifications will be the beginning questions, at least, for this Friday. Again, guys, if you have any questions, bring them in. My goal, my motivation for this Ask Me Anything is to help those of you who are stuck at home, separated from your classes, who are studying for CompTIA certifications or general tech as well. This is your opportunity to ask any of the questions you want. That's what I'm here for. So until then, guys, I guess I will see you. This is not Mike's Cool Tools. This is Mike's Cool Websites. I have a set of cool tools, which is a little bit of a different animal. And then Friday, of course, we'll have some giveaways. I'm still having trouble getting like ThinkGeek to do overseas, which is very frustrating. And we're trying to deal with these on a one-on-one basis. You overseas guys are a challenge. It's like something that's free here in the United States to ship is like $10 million to send to, I don't know, some faraway weird place like, I don't know, London. It's like, why? Don't they have FedEx trucks over there? Come on. But whatever it is, we will have some nice giveaways this Friday. Be ready with your questions. We know what the topics we're going to be covering. And until then, I'm going to be taking off. And until then, this is your little Uncle Mikey saying good night.